everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. My guest today is Matt Nizzi, owner of Spaulding Decon in Charleston and Beaufort, South Carolina. Spaulding Decon is the company that cleans up life's accidents. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I find this business very interesting, very intriguing. So for folks that don't know what Spaulding Decon is, tell them.
Yeah, so we are a full-on remediation service. So we start with the tame stuff that everyone hears about. So we got your basic water, your mold treatments for when anything happens in your house. We come in and clean it up and restore it. We also do the crazier stuff too. So the hoarding, the biohazard, which could be unintended death, crime scene cleanup, or anything in between. And all those different things. We do rodent dropping cleanups, we do drug lab cleanups. So all the crazy stuff where you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? What do I do? You call us for that.
You know, you really don't think about needing a service like that until you need it. And you are in this business because you chose it because you felt it was a way you could also help people. Explain that.
Yeah, so I've been, of course, had a lot of working years under my belt, and I wanted to be in an industry where I could go in and actually help people every single day. So there is no time that we pick up the phone and someone's just so excited to talk to us about a great situation, which can't, like, it's tough, but it's also something that I thrive on and my team thrives on, because we can help people at some of their lowest lows, and we can make sure that we can be that shining light that comes through to help them make the best out of the situation, and really just take a lot of the pressure, anxiety, whatever else they're feeling. They can focus on what they need to, whether that in some situations is losing a loved one, or just how to function day to day as my house is getting put back together, or in certain hoarding cases, how we can hold their hand and the family's hand through the process to help them actually get better from their disease, and not just clean it up and then next transaction go on to the next stop. It's really about how can we help them.
I love that about, especially with your hoarding clients, you do something extra special for them. Talk about that.
Yeah, so with all of our hoarding clients, we actually have a partnership with BetterHelp, where we provide 4 free counseling sessions with every single one of our clients. So we can do 2 different things. And a lot of people see like the hoarder show, right? That they watch and they're like, all right, you've got to be out of the house and you can't be here. And they come in and they clear everything out, and they come back in, and the people are like, they're shocked because they're like, oh my gosh, it looks so clean. But what a lot of people don't see is that person goes straight back to what they were doing before. And we're not a repeat type of business. We want to be there to help people and be there for people. And we provide that counseling for 2 different reasons. Number one, beforehand, to get them ready for what's going to happen, to get them prepared to break away with those attachments for certain things. And then number 2, after that's done, we can make sure that they're also still getting help to make sure they don't fall back into the exact same thing that they were doing before. So it's really about that long term.
Very important, very, very wonderful for you to offer that to your hoarding clients. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the hoarding situations. Most people do see them on these television shows. Do you mind sharing some of the situations that you've been in and what you've seen along the way, and sort of how it works, once you go into a home?
Yes, of course. So when we go into homes, we interact directly with the client, number one. So sometimes it's families, sometimes they're getting it done because there's an order from maybe an apartment complex, maybe it's fire code, building codes, anything like that. But we always make sure that number one, we figure out what their goals are. What is their goal? And everyone has a different goal. And we always work alongside, even if it's with family, we always want to bring in the hoarder as well to make them part of that solution. So it's really working alongside with them. And from what we've seen, there are 5 different main levels of hoarding that go from, hey, I've got some clutter in the floor, to, oh my gosh, it's floor to ceiling, literally touching the ceiling. And I can't even walk in here, can't open the door. So in order to do some of our quotes, we've had to literally unload and unpack from behind doors so we can go into the building.
Wow.
So there are some people that have literally almost barricaded themselves in from different things. So in terms of what we've seen, it's been pretty much everything across the board. There are some where you can see an entire floor that's caving in because it has so much stuff. And the floor when you're walking in, you're walking on a bunch of stuff, but then the floor is actually in the crawl space and you're going up and down in the house.
Can't
Um,
even imagine. What is the feeling like for you and your team after you go in? You're able to clear the space, clean things up, hopefully help your client not repeat that behavior and give them a better life. What does that feel like after all that's done?
it's the most fulfilling part of the job. It's really, and I think that's like our team. It's like the biggest tip that you can give them is that like afterwards when we spend that time walking through with them and showing them everything, and they're just in awe of, oh my gosh, thank you guys so much. We haven't had one client to this day that afterwards wasn't just extremely grateful for what we do, and that's again that's why I got in this business and why I do it is for trying to be that light. And that's like, yeah, I love it.
That's wonderful. And of course, there are other situations where you're called into action for crime scenes, for, as you said, unexpected deaths, say, and maybe an older person living alone and they've just been found by a family member or friend. And then you also have things like meth labs and things like that. Talk a little bit about some of those scenarios and how you handle those situations. Some are covered through insurance, some are not.
Correct. And most of those that you named are, unless there's any sort of like negligence or anything like that that's involved. In terms of your biohazard, which is, unintended death, crime scene cleanup, in any case, in all those, it's like I would say like a hoarding case, but on steroids, right? Because someone just lost a loved one. And there are different degrees of that. Sometimes it's, hey, we knew this was coming, so it's okay. In terms of the family had already started to come to terms with it because they are in declining health. To others where, hey, this was a complete shock, say something like a suicide that happened or an incident where, it wasn't a purposeful death. So with those, it's really a lot about comforting the family and making sure that we're taking as much off their plate as possible. We work directly with insurance companies so families don't have to. We literally are, myself and my team, if we get your insurance policy and the number, it's literally a, hey, we'll take care of things from here. I'll let you know if we need anything from you, but I will try and work directly with your insurance company on absolutely everything. So you don't have to do that one piece. And they can focus on their family. They can focus on what's going on with them.
Yeah. Talk about your experience, I would assume, working with law enforcement.
No, we're not allowed to have direct partnerships with law enforcement,
Sure,
but we
sure.
but we do have great relationships with them. What we've learned a lot through law enforcement is they don't know. A lot of times we'll have clients that ask our law enforcement officers and say, "Hey, do you guys clean this up?"
Right.
And the police officers are like, no, no, we don't. We
Mhm.
book it and then we leave. If say a
Right.
coroner's involved or something like that, we'll get them involved to come and do what they need to do. But no, we don't clean any of this up. And so a lot of people just don't know. So a lot of what we do is work in partnership with our police departments to make sure that there are options available and they at least know of some of those, ourselves and our competitors as well, just to make sure that people know what's out there and they don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to go and do all this on my own.
This is not come in and mop this and clean the counters. This is way above that cleaning. Talk about the difference in regular cleaning of your home and what it takes to clean a home after an incident such as hoarding or a crime scene or something biohazard or even flooding. Talk about that.
Most certainly. So, a few different things. Number one, the insurance that we carry is significantly higher, and it covers a lot more things. So you can be like rest assured that whenever we come in, oh, Matt or his team got cut and something happened on the job and they're like blood or whatever happened, like it's okay and it's covered. Like, or if you call in a general cleaner that they're like, oh, I can do this. Number one, they won't know how to clean it thoroughly, which I can go into a little bit. And number two, they're not insured if something bad happens in your house. So if they were for some reason to get, if there's a virus that was containing that blood or bacteria and they got sick, you as a homeowner could be liable for that.
Oh, wow.
Now, of course, when you call in a proper cleaning company like ourselves, we are insured, which is a lot more, it's a lot more expensive than your general cleaning
Sure.
in terms of what that insurance is, but it makes sure that our clients are covered for that.
Yeah.
And it usually, what a lot of people don't understand because they haven't seen it before, is when you deal with mold, when you deal with biohazard, when you deal with meth, it's or any drug, it's something that gets into things. So a lot of times there's demolition that's involved. So say, there's blood that's on a carpet. We can't just clean out that carpet and extract it. We actually need to go take the carpet up and check underneath, because generally there's something that got on the carpet pad, which can't be cleaned out. Sometimes it's on the subfloor, which we've got to go in. Sometimes you can clean that. Sometimes we've got to cut it out completely and then build that back.
So let me stop you. So if you go in and there is something on the floor, whether it's mold, mildew, chemicals, whatever from a crime scene, you have to take the flooring out. You actually would rebuild that?
Yes, we would rebuild it as
Oh,
well. So anything
okay.
that we take out, we'll also rebuild. And again, that's part of our, and I actually didn't get into this business to say, oh, I want to go and I want to do all these things and help people rebuild their homes back. What I figured out pretty quickly is how I can help families the most is to make sure, again, they don't have to deal with anything. So when I came in before and in the beginning, when I first opened and said, okay, well, you know what? We're going to clean all this up. Don't worry about a thing. And they're like, okay, thanks. Now what do I do? Like my carpet's gone, or there's a hole in my floor, and thanks for putting the plywood back. But now, like, what do I do? We're able to come in and do that entire thing from start to finish to make their home exactly like it was before.
That's a lot, Matt.
It is,
Because
but
I would
we
assume
love it.
some cases are way more extreme than others.
They most certainly are. And we have developed a really good network of contractors and subcontractors that we can use depending on the scale of the project, to make sure that we're suiting the needs of our clients, and we're not taking on something bigger than what we really need.
And you spearhead all of that organization when you go into a home that may need that sort of improvement?
Yes, most certainly do.
Wow. That's customer service, and that's someone who cares. That's amazing. And I assume that you get that sort of feedback from those that you have helped. The same
We
reaction I just had, I would think.
we most certainly do. And again, it took a few of those situations where they're like, oh, what do I do next? And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't leave someone like this in this situation, because it's almost like I came in and I did 50% of it and then I put it back on them again. So yeah, it was, how can we help them from start to finish to make sure that we're doing everything we can for them in the whole situation.
Well, that's business with a heart, if you ask me, because it would be easy just to say, well, hey, you just paid me to come in and clean up. You've got to do the rest. And as a homeowner, I'd go, well, gosh, where do I start? It wasn't my fault that I had this, flood come through or a pipe burst. My whole house is destroyed and you've just cleaned it up, but I still have issues. So that is a really special part of your business that you really go from beginning to end so that that homeowner is okay. They don't have the gaps literally in their home or in their life during that time. Wow. Is that something that most people who have businesses like you do, or is that something you've chosen to do extra?
It's something that I wouldn't say I'd say it's more rare than not. There are other companies that most certainly do it, but especially when you talk about drug lab, crime scene cleanup, or biohazard cleanup, hoarding, things like that. Generally, those companies do not do build back. Where it's a little bit more standard is if you get companies that do mold or water restoration. But even in that industry, it's more common for them not to do that. And they say, hey, I'm going to stick with my bread and butter of this. And then that's what I do. That's what I just do the remediation. And then after that, they can get whoever they want to do it, because it is very complicated when you talk about it's easy to rip something apart. In theory, it's easy to rip something apart, but then when you go start putting it back together, there are a lot more moving parts.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, sometimes just to get someone to come over and help you do something very simple in your own home can be like, no one shows up, no one calls you back. Will you take insurance? Will you even take a credit card? And that's a lot just for maybe a one simple home owner's project that they have. But for you to do all that you do, that is amazing. That is just amazing. Do you have any stories that you would like to share of some of your most interesting cleanups? I think that's always what people find intriguing is, really, did that happen? I don't know, maybe.
Oh my gosh. I would go to my mind probably first goes to some of the hoarding that we've
Yes.
done. And it was a house that I referenced before where the floors literally were caving in. Where when you walked in, you walked straight down and the floor was still all there. But you had to walk straight down probably about 2 or 3 feet on an incline like a ramp and then back up the other side of the living room to get to the other side of the house. Because this floor had just caved in. They had termite damage that had been going on for a few years. And it was neglected because it was a hoarder house and no one came in and checked on it. And two of the back bedrooms were also caved in. So, not only did we have to worry about, okay, getting this stuff out of the house, but then also the safety of our team and how safe is the structure to be in. So we had a lot of different safety protocols that we put in place to keep our team safe while we also were able to help this client out of a really bad situation to get this house back in working order.
How long
So,
did that situation take to resolve from beginning to end?
so because of the safety issues with this house, it was a smaller house, probably 1,500 square feet. It took us about a week and a half to do the full cleanup, just because we were moving a lot slower to make sure that we were maintaining safety there. But then in terms of the build back and what happens after that, pretty quick. Our crews, and one thing I know you said before, like how you get timing, how you make sure someone shows up. My essentially like Spaulding Decon promises, we're going to show up and we'll be there. And our customers are blown away by our build back time. And oh my gosh, I can't believe that you did that in a day. We've come in and just recently we had a client where they were renting this house out, and they were actually about to move back into it. So it was a mom and her son that owned this rental house. The renter just got out of it. They hadn't seen it in about 6 months. And in those 6 months, the tenant had 6 dogs that were living in the house that they really didn't allow outside. So it was infested with fleas. There was urine and feces everywhere in the entire house. And we were literally able to come in, remediate the smell, get up the floorboard and the subfloor, the entire house, that was not like structurally sound anymore. We couldn't get the odor out of. We did that and built it back in a 2-day period. So
What?
she had contacted us. It was 3 or 4 days ahead of time and said, hey, listen, I just found out about this, but I've got to move in. I closed my house this weekend. I have to move on Monday, or I don't have anywhere for myself and my son to go. And I talked to one of my subs and told him like, hey, what can we do? What can we move around to make this happen? And we got a lot bigger crew than normal out there to make sure that we came in. We ripped up the entire floor, the whole house, laid it back down the next day. And so they could come in that following weekend. And they were good. Their son and the mother had a place to go. So that was a pretty cool one.
My goodness, you guys are like angels that drop from heaven to help some of these folks. That is amazing. I can't even imagine what those situations look like when you walk into them, and to turn things around so quickly. You really have to have a passion for what you do, Matt.
Yeah, most certainly. We all do. We love doing it every day.
That's awesome. So you do work with insurance. Would that be a situation where you worked with insurance to help this lady?
With this one, she did not work with insurance on this one because it was considered negligence because the
Oh,
property hadn't been seen or looked over. But potentially in different situations like that, insurance is always an option. And when I say it's better to check with them than not, because a lot of people are very, very pleasantly surprised on, oh my gosh, that's something that's there. Something that I would call out is usually not being covered just from an educational standpoint. If you live in the low country areas, which is the main area that we service, most mold is excluded on those policies. So if you have mold in your house in the low country, you usually need an exclusion policy, which is something above and beyond your normal policy. And the same thing with water sewer backup. So with water sewer backup, which is basically anything you're like, hey, the pipe clogs from the street to your house, and it's not the city or the county's fault. Roots grow in between the line, and then water backs up into your house, which are some of the biggest like dollar level damages that we have, because that floods most pipes in your entire house at the same time and everything comes out. General policies either have it excluded fully or they only cover 5 to maybe 10 grand. So I would I would caution everyone to like look at your policy, and if it doesn't suit your needs, because again, it's something that's what insurance is there for, if
Yeah,
that what if happens.
right.
But for a lot of those policies, at least in the low country where we are, they're not covered, so but you can get coverage for them. It would just be a little extra.
But you know what? That's something that probably people don't even think about. So, me talking to you today is another level of education for people when it comes to home ownership and understanding what you may or may not need. Like you said, insurance is there when you need it. And when you need it, you definitely want to have it. So, that's really good advice. And really, no matter where you're watching from, when it comes to placing insurance provisions in for those types of needs that you just mentioned probably need to be in place. And thankfully, insurance companies do help in situations that you are trying to rectify, which is good. You have to have some free time, I'm hoping, because it sounds like you're really busy and you have a family. How do you fit it all in?
Oh my gosh! Right now, not very well because we're still within the like the year is starting up, so it's grind and go go go. I've got a super supportive wife though, that helps out a lot, and she watches after our two kids. So we have a 9 month old and a 2.5, almost 3 year old now.
Oh my
Got to
goodness.
stop saying 2.5. So yeah, she's almost three. But absolutely love spending time with them. Of course, we're close to the beach, so we love going to the beach. And kite surfing, man, I love kite surfing. Whenever I can get some free time to do that, that's where I'll be.
That's awesome. Anything else that you want to share with folks watching today about what you do and why it would be important them to know about you being there when they need it for life's accidents, right?
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, really just that there's someone here for you. So if you're in a situation that you don't know what to do or it seems overwhelming, give us a call. We give free quotes. We'll come out, we'll tell you what you're looking at. And in any case, we'll educate you on, if it's not us, what the next best steps are. And that's a lot of times what we can do with your insurance as well. So they might cover it, they might not, but we can help educate you and read your policy, and even help get in touch with your own insurance company to make sure that you're taken care of. And that's, just it's what we do. We want to educate, we want to help you through your situation. So whether you think you need us or not, you can give us a call and we can tell you what to do next.
Well, Matt, this has been really an interesting conversation, talking about your business and what you do, things that I have learned today. So hopefully folks watching today have also gained some valuable information by listening to you. So thank you so much for being my guest. I have thoroughly enjoyed this.
Oh my gosh, I love being on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so get some kite surfing in when you can.
I know it. I know it. Now, I don't have as much time as I want right now, but soon, hopefully.
Great. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me. And folks, there'll be information in the description if you'd like to reach out to Matt as well and learn more about Spaulding Decon. That's going to do it for this edition of Conversations with Nicole. Until I see you again, I hope you have a great day.